Hello, hello.
Hello,
Hello,
how's
everybody.
everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing fantastically. How are you, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. As I was saying to you before, I feel completely rushed off of my feet today. I think because I've been on this course, this master's course.
Yeah.
Not masters, but it's called mastered. It's like that course that I got onto, a government-funded one to learn Blender and business skills, using the Summoned Realms Architecture and Video Games podcast as a vehicle for that. I've had a million different things I've been trying to do to develop our podcast. I've been trying to make it into a business. I've been trying to learn Blender properly. I've
Yep.
been like organizing, like getting people in to make the music, which we'll talk about soon, like the theme tune, making like assets, making stuff on Blender.
So
Just
you've been busy. Very,
yeah,
very busy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah. Fuck
balancing it
no.
with my full-time job as well, and it's just been absolutely, it's been a whirlwind. But I'm glad that we managed to get on tonight and
Yeah,
host the
no.
podcast.
So I think today is going to be more of like a bit more of an introduction, isn't it, really? Because we don't really have like a solid topic to talk about because we're still in the process of like kind of aligning what topics we want to talk about in the next like few months or so. But today we thought we'd take a deeper dive into what we enjoyed when we were younger and what games really kind of inspired us. So, Adrian, I'm going to ask you this. What did you grow up with?
Yo, did that weird blue guy just steal our QR code?
So I was very much what people call on the internet a Nintendo-year-old.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
So interestingly, when I think about my like life as a kid, and I really think about the center of my identity in that sense with gaming, it's very much Nintendo.
Yeah.
So it was the Game Boy Color as the first handheld console I had, and it was building from that into the Game Boy Advance and into the DS and into the 3DS, like never missing a beat with that stuff. But then also, I tend to think about how I had the Nintendo GameCube and I had the Nintendo Wii and then I got the Wii U, and those are very much the things which I was following. However, having said that, my first ever console that I really remember was the Sega Genesis, or I suppose a Sega Mega Drive for the American audience there, and also
I think it's flipped
having.
actually. I think the Sega Genesis is American, I think Mega Drive I think is the PAL version, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I can't remember the way that maybe I've
Yeah.
got it the wrong way around. But I suppose regardless of that, it's kind of basically. So there was the odd one here or there, which was not Nintendo. So a PlayStation 1, had a PlayStation 2, managed
Yeah.
to get an Xbox 360. But really, I see myself as a Nintendo-year-old. But then how
Nintendo
about you then?
Oh god, fucking hell. I grew up with a fair bit. I grew up watching my parents play Diablo on the PlayStation 1. My first console I ever touched was a Sega Dreamcast, I think it was, and my
Wow.
favorite game on there was Virtua Cop, which was the light gun shooter. That was incredible, an incredible piece of like gaming history, I'd say, because it was one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the best where railway shooters basically. Um, and then massively grew up on the PlayStation 1, played a lot of amazing games on there, like Ridge Racer, Medieval, uh, dipped into a bit of like Silent Hill and whatever. A lot of like games that started on the PlayStation 1 that had their origin stories on their very first console.
Hmm.
Played a lot of handhelds as well, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, like PSP as well. Had a 360. There's a lot of games that I've played in my youth that has probably gone into what I do nowadays in terms of my 3D modeling, but also what inspires me to keep going, because a lot of the stuff I did back then, a lot of the stuff I played was incredible. So, and I still go back to those games very much fondly every single month or so.
I wanted to say something that you mentioned right at the start there, was that you said that you kind of started out watching your parents play Diablo.
Literally.
So I'm kind of thinking like you had a very different approach to me, in the sense that basically video games was something which I don't really remember the specific of memory of when I like got my first video game, apart from I think my first video games were like both Pokemon Blue and this like Buzz Lightyear Game Boy Color game.
Oh, I know
like,
the one you're talking about.
very stripped
Yeah. I know the one you're talking
I'm
about.
kind of thinking is that I was the one who kind of had to bother my parents about gaming, and maybe they got it for me just because they thought I'd like it, or maybe I asked them for it. I can't remember, but it sounds like you actually grew up with your parents as being kind of like the first ones there doing it before you got into it.
It was a weird kind of experience, because I speak to a lot of people of my age and people who are slightly younger or slightly older, and I don't know if it's a rare thing to like grow up with your parents playing games, but I remember my mum used to play like Diablo 2 on the PC, and like Stronghold and Age of Empires and stuff like that on the PC, and it was really fucking cool. Like, honestly, it was amazing. Like, I think with all the truthness to it, I think I had a pretty easy childhood in terms of video games, because a lot of parents are really strict, like, and rightfully so, because there are a lot of violent games out there, and there's still that massive concept of like, oh, if you play a violent video game, you're then going to be violent yourself, which actually was a topic we discussed on the Prototype series, wasn't it, if I remember correctly, about violence in video games and stuff like that. So that would be something cool to go back to, because there's been a lot more like research put into that since then. But yeah, like I grew up like watching my parents play games, my brother play games. I mean, fuck, even my granddad used to play PGA Golf Tour on like his PC back in the early 2000s. Like, so I don't know, I guess it was all around it, really.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? You know how you mentioned the PGA Golf Tour there? Because obviously you've come from this perspective where video games were there and you were showing them and things like that. So, and you said it was quite easy going in terms of getting a hold of games. And I do have an anecdote to do with someone I know who didn't have that kind of access. But just to show how like kind of out of touch my parents were with the kind of just the concept of video games is I remember when I finally got a Nintendo Wii when I was a teenager, and I was just playing Wii Sports, and that's what got the family kind of turned around, obviously, because you know what the Nintendo Wii did for expanding the video game market into the elderly and things. And so I was playing Wii Sports, and I was playing Wii Sports Golf, and I remember I was just playing it in the living room, and it's just like the whum, you know, kind of whatever. And my dad was sat next to me, and he said, "You know what, Adrian? I've just had a really good idea for a video game." And I said, "Oh, well, what is it, Dad? Let me know." And I was kind of like, what's this going to be? And he said, "Well, you know what would be really cool is like, it starts out like a normal golf game, just like this. But what happens is you hit the ball and it goes really far out into like the middle of like the forest bit, like over there." And he pointed at some bit, and then he said, "And what happens is you've got to go over and like get your ball back. But when you get there, like a load of aliens turn up, and then you've got to get your golf bloody bat. What do you call a golf cue? No, cue.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, I don't golf. You've got to get your golf cue, and you've got to like track the aliens down. You've got to beat them up and kill them all."
What? That'd be a sick idea for a game, actually. I
was listening to him, and I was like, you know what, that is actually really cool. You know,
I like the concept of like sports games where like it's not just a sports game. Like, say for instance, like I mean, it happens all the time in real life in hockey, but like in hockey games, like I think NHL, I think it is. National Hockey League. Oh, there you go. National Hockey League. Like the line of series of games they've got going on for the NHL. Like the fact that there's also like a fighting mini game that you can have. Like, I love that kind of shit. Like, there was a game I think released for the PlayStation 1 called Foul Football, I think it was. And basically your goal was to basically be a complete bastard on the pitch. Like, I mean, like in Dream Players and shit like that. So yeah. And like just stuff like that is really cool. Like, I think you can. It's a bit of a tangent, but I think you can go very, very far with, you know, sports games. Because like, think about FIFA Street, for instance. That's
Oh, of course, yeah.
that's a great series of football
That was
games.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't like football games myself. Like, I don't play FIFA. I used to play FIFA a lot with my brother when I was younger, but like, the only like kind of football game I'll play is like FIFA Street because it's just unique in its own sense. Do you know? Like, so I love that kind of stuff.
I was thinking this kind of like there's a good way where I could bring this back, going on to like the games of our youth, skipping ahead slightly. But I remember similar to what we were just saying earlier about how, like, you know, some people think, oh, video games are violent, you shouldn't play video
Yeah.
games, it's a bad influence. But basically, I had to write like an essay that I had to present to the class in English class in like year 8 or year 9, so around 13 or 14 years old. And I think I wrote it about something to do with like how video games can be like a positive, like they can be an art form or they can be like educational or something. And I was giving this talk.
I think we discussed that, didn't we, in our one of the prototype episodes?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I might have brought it up, but I remember in saying this that I talked about anecdotally about all these Nintendo games that I played,
Yeah.
and I didn't talk about many of the ones I played on the PS2 or 360 because I wasn't thinking of them very much. And I said this statement, and I said, I am a hardcore gamer and I think this, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember someone put their hand up at the end. It was another student, and he said, Adrian, how can you call yourself a hardcore gamer if you play Nintendo games? They're not hardcore games. And I think like it's interesting because I totally disagreed with him because again, like growing up with these things, yes, I access like the PS2 and PS1, but to me, I learned quite early that just because a game looks gritty,
Yeah.
like Call of Duty or something like that or Halo, versus a game which looks doughy like Kirby or Mario or whatever. Like just because something looks gritty doesn't mean it like is just the only thing that's like hardcore in terms of gaming.
It's
Because there's Nintendo games that are
Yeah.
insanely hardcore.
It's
you
a
know?
very subjective sort of thing, really, because it's kind of like how hardcore can a hardcore gamer be? It's like how long is a piece of string, you know? Like,
Yeah,
and like for me, like if we're talking about if we're like hardcore gamers or whatever, which I guess is a term you can use, but it's just like I don't know, like it is like, is that actually a real thing? Like, can you be unless you're like playing, I don't know, like a game like 8 hours a day, like every single day? Like, I think if I think of anything like a hardcore gamer, I think of something like someone who goes on Counter-Strike and plays it 8 hours a day, you know, after they've just finished their shift or whatever, and like, or they don't have a job and they get paid for playing it. I don't know if that's hardcore. But like, I think it's very subjective in people's opinions on what is hardcore gaming, because you know, the hardcore gamer could come across as someone who does all nighters completing campaigns on different games and stuff like that. Like what I used to, and my old friend of mine, like we completed all the Halo campaigns in sittings of like 12-hour sittings, basically. So I don't know, like it's a very weird
When
one.
was what period was that for you when you were doing that kind of thing?
Oh god, literally, so it would have been year 9 going through year 9 to year 11. Was, if for anyone else who isn't from the UK, that's like the last 3 years of high school, basically. We would we'd kind of like rotate throughout weekends. Like one weekend, my friend would come around mine, we'd complete a Halo campaign, and then the next weekend I'd go around his, we'd complete a Halo campaign. Like I remember, like when Halo 4 was released, he actually went to the midnight launch, and then like the day later, he then came to mine, and then we completed the Halo 4 campaign. I believe, anyway. Like on my old main channel that I used to upload on quite frequently, I've got actually a video of us doing a Halo 4 night. So like we were like proper like into it back then, and that was a lot of fun. And that kind of era of gaming, you know, the 360 era, like I think it's like generation 7, generation 6, whatever the fucking generation's called for the 360 and PS3. That generation was like probably what shaped me into like the final form of like who I am today. Because honestly, like the community of the 360, like playing Halo 3 on matchmaking was like, if there was a time I'd go back to, it would be that 360 era where I'd hop on Halo 3 after school and then just play some fucking stupid like mini games or like matchmaking or something, you know?
On that, like, that's really cool to hear that was like your sort of like that peak period for you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because for me, it definitely wasn't, on the other hand, because I think I'd already kind of grew up in this scenario of being very much used to Nintendo games, and it was
Yeah.
very much like offline and kind of sat with friends. And then going from that, I did get a 360, but not on release date. It was like a little bit later. And of course, Xbox Live was like a pay per month thing.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And I was always, I mean, I was generally broke, and I was
You were a
skeptical to the
kid.
idea of like, I mean, yeah, I was broke, and I didn't like the idea of paying monthly, and I always thought like, like paying monthly to like play
Yeah.
online, that's a rip-off. I'm never gonna do that. And then on top of that was obviously I had friends, and hopefully
Yeah.
some of them will end up coming on as guests eventually, and they may or may not talk about their time doing that. But like I would have wanted to join them, but the other issue is that, and I think it's partially because, again, being like a Nintendo-year-old, but also never picking up the Metroid series, meant that like first-person shooters to me, just on a controller, like I didn't find like the grittiness of those games appealing. I didn't like the first-person shooter because I felt like basically when most people like zipping around looking like this, I'm kind of going like,
I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? I think it's dependent
I
on
just got
how
killed.
you grew up on gaming, because, like, for instance, like, I remember, and this was like and I think it was one of the introductions into first-person shooters, was my biological dad, he used to play Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which is a really good World War II FPS game, by the way. It was released in, like, 2001, I think it was. I've actually done a lot of content on it on my beta channel, because there's so much, like, cut content, and it's one of my favorite games. But I remember specifically him logging onto GameSpy on his PC, which, rest in peace GameSpy, by the way. If you don't know what GameSpy is, it's kind of like what Steam is now, basically. He used to log on to GameSpy and then go onto the Medal of Honor Allied Assault servers, and I used to watch him, like, as like a 4 or 5-year-old, watch him like shoot like soldiers, basically. And that is what kind of inspired me, and why I enjoy gaming now, is because, actually, that sounds a bit dark, but like the thing is, right, is like seeing how happy my dad was when he was relaxed and playing games kind of links back to how I am, where like I come home from a shift at work and I just want to sit down and just play something. Like, that is how it is nowadays, and that is, I think a lot of that has to do with like watching my family play video games. Like, it's kind of inspiring in a way.
Yeah, that I totally agree with like that for sure, because when you're really young, I mean, I've got a friend who recently, well, I suppose not. I guess his son is maybe 2 years old or something like that. But I remember asking him, sort of saying like, what is it like having a kid? Because I don't have one myself, and
Mm-hmm.
and he said to me like he noticed that his son would like constantly watch him, like
Yeah.
when he was literally like a baby, so it's just like months. He was like, my son just constantly watches me, and he had this feeling that like everything he did, his son was like analyzing it, like a computer, kind of going, what's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
And it does,
like
and it is that point that one of your earliest core memories will be like seeing how much
yeah.
joy like your own dad
Literally,
can
like,
get from this
I
kind of thing.
I remember, like, specifically waking up on a weekend morning when I was like 4 years old, and I went into my brother's room and I turned on our Sega Dreamcast and started playing Virtual Cop with the light gun they had. Like, honestly, like, I
Mm.
remember it. So I remember how like sunny it was in the morning. I remember like the dressing gown my dad had. Like, literally, I remember it like spot on, and just like that in general is like, I don't know, just like a nice memory of mine I want to keep, because, and hopefully for when I'm older and I do have children, or when I do have a child or whatever, I hope that it follows the same suit, where like they kind of watch what I do and they kind of get inspired by it. But like, it is literally all dependent on how you've grown up with games. Like, God, like, I feel sorry for the people who don't experience video games, because sometimes video games are a good outlet for stress and just relief and whatever.
and sometimes they just have an incredible story to them, and that's like
Yeah.
something that people are missing. And I think of games like Disco Elysium, which I genuinely hold as like that will be remembered in like civilization and
Yeah,
art for
yeah,
like
yeah.
a long time to come with any look. And I say that, for instance, to kind of talk similarly to what you said about one of your core memories is I always remember like when I was a really young boy, I like my mum would read me bedtime stories.
Yeah.
And one of them was this book called The Faraway Tree. And I think she read it to me because probably her mum or dad read it to her. And I don't really remember the story except for like I remember the cover of the book was like this huge tree that had a bunch of like kind of a sort of fairy tale characters and things like
Yeah.
that. And even though I don't remember anything that happened in the story, I still remember that general feeling of just like laying in bed and like listening to my mum saying this thing and me being like, "Oh wow, this is a really cool story." Like, "Oh, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And just thinking about although for me that wasn't like a video game thing, it was still it kind of carried on this core thing where then I'd get older and I'd learn to read independently and I'd like sit in my bed. And I remember there was this book series called The Keys to the Kingdom by Garth Nix, which was like Mr. Monday, Grim Tuesday, Drowned Wednesday, like big teen fiction stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I remember like reading like all 7 of these books like really quickly and just always absorbing. And I think like one of the reasons for me is why my video game kind of like ingesting is more like story based, narrative based, and things like that that can be single player usually is because I just grew up loving stories so much, and I see a video game as what you said about like a sit down opportunity to kind of just be with the game and like relieve stress or whatever. For me, it's like kind of being like, okay, what does this person have to give to me, and is
Yeah.
it going to be all in like a narrative, or is it going to be in like the feel of the game and the way things go?
It's one of those things where like your earliest childhood memories will kind of shape you as a person later on, especially as an adult. And that's the thing. Like for me personally, I remember like my mum was kind of when I was young, by the way, my mum was quite hot on like GTA and stuff like that. Like she was there, like, right, I don't want you playing GTA because my brother at the time was old enough to play GTA and understand that it's a game, right? But from a younger point of view, like my mum used to say, right, I don't want you playing GTA. When you're older, you can. Like it wasn't like a no, you're not allowed to play fucking GTA. Like it's not allowed. It's too violent. It was like right when you're old enough to understand, you can. And I remember one of the like I forgot how you say it, but like one of the things that my mum would do is that because where our home PC was, it was like situated where it was close to the kitchen. And I remember my
Yeah.
mum was there like, right, you can watch your brother play GTA, but you have to watch it from a distance. So it was kind of like it was kind of
Okay.
like a cop out where it's kind of like right, because she could understand that I was like because I don't know if it's because of like my autism or whatever, I'm not quite sure, but she kind of knew herself like there was no way I was not going to allow myself to watch my brother play a really fun game. So what I did was I ended up like watching from a distance and I could still see all the violence and shit like that, but obviously nothing came from it. And yeah, like just having those memories as well, like from an early point of view, understanding that what you're seeing on the screen isn't actually what is real and whatever was probably something quite good as well, because a lot of people tend to have this really, 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 really fucking like solid like opinion that if you're at a very, very young age and you see something like that, it turns you into a madman or a mad woman, and it's kind of like, well, no, it's not like that. It's how to understand how you teach, children and whatnot about violence in video games and stuff like that. So
I would say 2 things on that. Because first of all, what you had in terms of your mum being skeptical about you enjoying a GTA game, I have a similar story. So, pardon me. So basically, I was really desperate to get a hold of GTA San Andreas because I'd already somehow
yeah,
got a hold of GTA 3, like Liberty City,
yeah,
and I'd played that. And then, but the thing with GTA San Andreas in particular was that it was mega mega popular.
Oh yeah,
Like I feel like
it's
it was
funny
way more
enough.
popular than
Just
the
to
previous
interrupt,
two.
when I was looking at the magazine of PlayStation 2 magazine we were looking at later on, I was kind of looking to see how far ahead it was released from when the PlayStation 2 was launched, and I was actually having a quick look on the wiki of the PlayStation 2 just to get a solid date. And actually, the best selling game on the PlayStation 2 was GTA San Andreas.
Yep, I
Yeah,
can absolutely
yeah,
believe that.
absolutely. I think it sold like 12.6 million copies or some shit like that, which is insane, like for a game. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, Adrian, carry on.
Yeah, no, no, of course, but that's good because it sets the scene. Because you think of how much hype was around this,
Oh
and
yeah.
all the parents across the country, to some degree, were like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And what I had was like, my mum said to me, like, "Adrian, I've heard about this game. I'm really not sure that I want you to get it." And I said, "Oh, mum, I swear, I don't want to do any of the bad stuff. All I want to do is like drive the car around. It's just like a really good driving game." And my mum was like,
All right,
okay."
I've seen your mum a few times. I could imagine her
Yeah,
reaction as well. Yeah.
and and here's the thing is like what's really I'm it's quite embarrassing to think about it, but like I was playing the game and obviously it's like yes, yeah, I can do shooting. Oh, you know what I mean? And so mum came into the room because she could hear it, and I think she could like hear police sirens and like shouting and stuff. So
Yeah.
like she came in and she said like, "Adrian, I hope, I hope you're kind of behaving yourself for that game or whatever." And as soon as she came in, dude, as soon as she came in and she opens the door, looks at the TV, and I've just shotgunned a police officer's head clean off of his body, and the head has just gone.
Yeah. And you got the
And
classic fucking head spurt as well. Yeah.
oh
No,
my god!
yeah.
And like, and my mum just looked at it and she just like, kind of did like a Marge Simpson style grumble and just like slammed the door. And I was just like, oh no!
No.
Like, I can't believe my mum saw that. But
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, on the other hand, to what you're saying about like what you said before about how it's quite interesting to be exposed to violence when you're younger, because for instance, my dad when he was younger, like he was very much like a bit of like a rowdy guy as it were when he was growing up, and like he told me that like when he went to watch the Warriors at the cinema, because that was a revolutionary like thing of
Oh, The
like
Warriors
action
is a
violence.
great fucking movie and
Apparently,
game. Yeah.
apparently like when he came out of the cinema, because it was all young lads like his age,
Yeah.
apparently as soon as they got onto the pavement they all just started like fighting and smacking each other and stuff like that. And so
It's
you've kind of
yeah.
got a balance of like, what is this young exposure to the violence and stuff versus,
I
I don't know.
think it's a topic for another time. I think because like we said
Mm.
before in one of our prototype episodes, we discussed violence in the games, and I remember we both did lots and lots of research into it. And I remember I also brought back the research that I did back in secondary school because it was one of the subjects, like research on something of you like and you're interested in. I did deaths in video games in terms of like real people dying. And to quickly go back to that episode, I think I mentioned saying that the people that die the most or pass away the most from playing video games is from prolonged exposure to playing a game. Like I think there was a guy in Japan or China who played Diablo 3 for about like 3 or 4 days straight, and I think he died from either heart failure or blood clot because he hadn't moved besides
Wow.
going to like the bathroom and stuff like that or to get food or something like that. So you can
Who
understand
knows?
that.
Who knows if he even moved for those
Yeah,
things?
exactly. Yeah. And that's
There's
the
a
thing.
famous viral video. You might know it of like this guy who's recording. I don't know if it's COD or something like that, and his mum comes in, and you don't see any of it because there's no webcam. But you just hear her in the background go, "You need go to the bathroom.
Oh
Go to
no,
the
he's playing
bathroom." And he's like,
Mafia. Yes,
"No,
I know
no."
the one you're talking about. Yeah, like literally. Like that's the thing. Like like it's sad to some extent, but also it's one of those things where it's like it's how you control yourself. That's the main reason of it. It's how you control yourself when you're playing games, and if you're exposed to it at a young age, it's how your parents teach you about video games and what is real and what isn't real. And a lot of the time everything on video games isn't real unless you're playing something like FIFA or something like a racing game or like a golf game. Like for instance, I remember years ago when I was in university, I was still on the notice board of my local town that I grew up in, and there was a lady who started a local, but I always find this fucking hilarious, and I always say this to people. There was a lady on there who had started a petition to stop violence in video games. And
Right.
we're talking like a local lady from this town. It had like 100 signed, like, like signs or whatever for this petition. And I straight up said to her on the Morbid Notice board, I said, you have to understand that this will never pass because the market for video games in the UK, the market for video games is what brings us a lot of money. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that the video games industry, at the moment, the video games industry is kind of topping over a little bit, kind of going up and down. Like, we've had the fucking Saudis buy out EA, which will be a
Yes.
topic for another episode. But when it comes to it, like, if you want to teach young children about violence in video games and whatever, then it's how you expose them to it, if you want to expose them to it. But later on down the line, especially nowadays with like social media and just how easy it is to access like videos and content of games and whatnot, it's hard to kind of stop your child from being able to expose themselves to that sort of content. And I straight up said to her, like, this will never pass. Like, and it sounded very cocky from me, but I was also, in games design for my course, for my graduate's degree. So I was kind of there, like, look, like, and I even said, like, I was there, like, hey, like, I'm also learning to become a full-time game designer or video game asset designer. I will tell you this right now, you may get a lot of signees, but it won't pass because the market's too big. Like, it will, like, you may be able to make some small impact in a local area, but it won't happen worldwide.
And you know what, to that point that you just said, what does it mean to make an impact on a local area with a petition in the context of video games? All it really means is that, like, it creates like a local panic with parents.
yeah.
And then ultimately, you would create a sort of a retaliatory panic with the kids in the area.
Yeah.
So, for instance, there'll be one parent who knows a little bit like you going up to them and saying, this is silly, right? There'll be a parent who's like, who would have that same feeling, and you'd start to probably get like a bunch of parties at this one house where everybody goes over all the time, and they all just play the game there. It's like, and also like, it's a very interesting thing to think that, like, because we are talking about the games that we grew up with, but we are also talking about the kind of the culture and politics that surrounded, like, because it is an effect. You can't talk about the games you played without thinking about like what your parents would say yes or no to.
Well,
I mean,
go on.
I was just going to quickly finally say is that, like, a friend of mine, same age as me, being like 31, his first video games console was a Nintendo Wii when he was like, I don't remember how old, but to me it just seemed, I think he must have been like 13 or something. But I just thought, like, that to me, like, your first video games console being the Nintendo Wii when you're 31 years old, it was truly like his parents were like really gatekeeping, and they thought it would like affect his education by getting into video games. But then in the end, he's now like a PhD. He's going to be a doctor of like particle physics.
Well,
It's like evidently didn't seem to affect him too bad.
Well, this is the thing. It's one of those things where the stand on like violence in games is an interesting one, and it's always down to the fact that like there's always, and my friend who I live with now actually, he made a really good point. Like, if violence in video games kills people, then we should stop watching movies, because violent movies, if we're going on the same topic, violent movies will kill people because it's reenacting stuff like serial killers and stuff like that. Let's stop swimming because you drown if you let's
ban stairs,
ban stairs, or I don't know, like ban literature, because Jesus Christ, like, I don't want my kid reading 50 Shades of Grey. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's a silly thing. And that's the thing, like, people don't put research into it before making, like a solid evidence of like cases. And that's the thing. Like, I remember I said to her, the last thing I said on that petition when I was replying to her message, I said, it's all about what you expose your kids to and how you teach them. Like, it's got nothing to do with the video games industry. It's got nothing to do with the people that make the games. It's how you, as a person, receive the information from the piece of software that you're playing with or you're messing around with. So, but yeah, so I would say that our childhoods have been full of interesting surprises and full of love and gaming, as it should be.
I think, yeah, I think that even though we come from it in two different positions where your parents were already into that and my parents were completely unaware of it, I think we've both had what you generally say, sort of like a very keen and healthy
Yeah.
relationship with it. Because obviously, like, we're doing this podcast now, which is just to show how passionate we are for the art form, and we've seen and had like video game experiences that like plenty of other people haven't, and we've seen some incredible forms of art. You've probably had some, like, I have as well, but some insane interactions with your friends and some like the best, like,
Yeah.
rosiest memories, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I think we both had like a great time growing up with that stuff, and it's like we'll keep using those memories if and where we find them, and I'm sure they'll inspire next episodes as they come along.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on to something that will probably be a common segment on our later episodes, if not with people who are with us, who are guests and whatnot, but as just me and Adrian going through, you know, the beefy and very cool, very cute magazines and advertising and whatever. Now, I don't know how we're going to do this as we're recording. I'll probably just record the whole entire thing without our webcams in on the screen. But what we will do is we'll launch it up now and we'll bring it up. And what I'll do is, in the meantime, I will do that. Put you over there. There you go. So, and then what I'll do as well is I'll screen share. And Adrian, you can then see the screen for when you are ready. There you go. So if you just click on that gorgeous little screen.
Yes, we just got that loading. So do you have it so the screen is sharing maybe with us three at the bottom, and then oh no, but you've got to move around screens and things, haven't you?
So it's going to be a bit of a difficult one, but I'm sure we will figure out something. Let me just move to... see, there we go, cool. So righty, so here we are. So this PlayStation magazine here was released, I believe, a year, so this is October 2001. This one was released a year after the PlayStation's release, so we're still pretty early in on the PlayStation 2's life at the moment. Obviously the PlayStation 1 at this point in stage is still going very well. And we're just going to take a flick through a random magazine once every other episode or so and just look at the marketing. We'll probably go through like the years of PlayStation magazines or Xbox magazines and whatnot, and just see how the difference is in terms of like the marketing and like advertising and stuff like that. Because honestly, with everything with the PlayStation 2 magazines, like back then in the early 2000s, the advertising was very raunchy. It was like, I mean, me and you had looked at it like a few days ago after we did our first episode, and some of the advertising is insane. So we start off here with Gran Turismo 3. Good game series, mind you. Haven't played it in a while, but it's very good. And then here we are. So where are we at here?
I have to say, before you go ahead, like, there's something that sort of both of these previous screens have in common. So, like the Gran Turismo one and the this game, the MX 2002.
Yeah.
I love how like the framing that they've used is very much like there's just this single object in the center frame, and then there's sort of a comment about it, and they both hark onto realism.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
so the
yeah,
one
yeah.
before was literally like a car, and it looks like a photograph, or it is a photograph, and they're saying like, oh, actually our graphics are going to be way better than this. And then the skateboard one is just like the skateboard in the center with tire tracks through it, and you could take that as being like, maybe obviously we're a bit keener to see it, but it looks photographic in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very interesting how but as you said about these adverts being gritty and raunchy, they have this very strong, like, just really strong focus on like laying out the page, super cleanly and super well on the really memorable ones.
One of the things I love about the PlayStation 2 official magazines back then, or the PlayStation magazines in general, was that they weren't too timid on showing their opinions and whatnot. Like, obviously this is a BMX game, and obviously it's going over a skateboard, And obviously that's to kind of push fucking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater aside and be like, here's a new game, MX 2002. Like, this is the BMX, like, off-road motorbike game, whatever, which is pretty cool, I must admit.
Fuck Tony
Fuck
Hawk.
Tony Hawk.
Fuck a skateboard,
Blaze-
dude. We're on a motocross.
Like, literally. So here we go. So we've got a few things here. We've got Thunderhawk, Operation Phoenix, Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX2, which actually ran off the same Tony Hawk's Pro Skater engine, funny enough. And then we've got a bunch of other things here. And obviously there's going to be other things mixed in here as well. It's 149 pages. We won't go through all 149 as we don't have enough time, but we'll go through it once in a while. So there we go with the advertising again. BT Cellnet.
Just like a raunchy, just like it's aimed at this like teenagers and young adults and stuff, isn't it,
Obviously we have the content that we'll be having in this magazine as well. Lots of very cool screenshots of different games and such. And then we've obviously got editors' letters as well. Lots of stuff to do with how, they're thankful for, the viewers who actually read their stuff. Which back then, obviously, it was probably the most popular thing. You didn't have, like, internet at that point in time was still very brand new. And there probably wasn't, there wasn't what we have now in terms of, like, Discord or Reddit or anything like that. So we have this to really look at. Good old Blockbuster. So this is another thing as well. We're going to come across a lot of things that just aren't around anymore. So it's just going to be quite interesting. Yeah, again, some more cool advertising from Shadow Man 2. This stuff here is what I absolutely love. Like, it's so gritty,
There's just, again, it's like even just with the first few pages, there's so many like adverts that have a style or an approach that you just will not see today.
There was a lot of love put into the PlayStation 2 magazines from what you can see, like, and just every other magazine, or like even the PC, like the PC magazines that used to advertise games and such. Very, very cool. Here we have Soul Reaver 2. The first Soul Reaver was a very good game. Actually, a game I wanted to do a topic on my beta channel, funny enough, because there's a lot of prototypes and stuff. Yeah, again, screenshots. MX Rider, the one we were just talking about. We have Portal Runner. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Portal Runner was a interesting game. Do you know what Portal Runner is, Adrian?
You know what? I actually have no idea. No idea.
So, Portal Runner was a spin-off game of the Army Men games. And you played as the green-haired chick who had a love for Sarge, who was the main Army Man guy, and Portal Runner was an awful game. it was absolutely panned. It was fucking awful. Dark Cloud, though, that's a great game. Baldur's Gate, the first Baldur's Gate in the PlayStation 2. There you go. Jack and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, also another great game, probably on par with like Crash or to some people, even Zelda to some degree.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Yeah. Wipeout Fusion, another great line.
Silent Hill 2 was there as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff here that we're going to be like. Time Crisis 2, one of my favorite
really
shooters.
dated,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
And then here we have the preview of WWF SmackDown. Probably one of my favorite sports, I must admit. A lot of this stuff here, though, another thing that we'll talk about, I'll probably talk about more from my side, is that a lot of the screenshots you would see in PlayStation 2 magazines would be beta screenshots or prototype screenshots and whatever. So a lot of stuff here wouldn't be in the final cut of certain games that are advertised on the PlayStation magazine. And there we go, some cool in-depth, the wireframe, the polygons on the rock. Look at that.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
you know what? I want to quickly say something here. Is that since I've been doing the Introduction to Blender course, with like the Mastered company, seeing that and thinking about what I've been learning at the very early stages of like using polygons properly and things like that. It's like, I guess this must be like a wireframe because I guess you're seeing like the front and the back. But it's really cool that they would put in here, they would show not just because you said like there was the prototypes or the betas that would have screenshots, but now they're actually somehow, however they've managed to access it, they're trying to actually access like genuine like developer files. And, like, assets
it's cool.
like
I could imagine. From what I know is that developers would send editors and magazines on what like little like like packages of like content and stuff. So like I don't know, like a hard drive with like content like like screenshots and whatnot, and like views of models and stuff. So I can imagine this picture of the Rock with the wireframe and the polys is probably a developer photo, and they just sent it over to PlayStation Magazine to kind of get a gist of how many polys there are in this game, which is really cool.
Yeah.
We got Airblade. I've never played Airblade, but I heard it was a good game.
It looks like Sega took this and turned it into Sonic Riders eventually. You know what I mean? Like
Oh my
the
god,
sort of
Sonic
hovering
Riders.
skateboard.
Sonic
Yeah.
Riders, what a fucking game. There's more of Airblade, and we got Thunderhawk as well, the ultimate flying machine. Thunderhawk's a good game. Cool screenshot again.
That is a brilliant model, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic. Like honestly, like I said, some of the screenshots and advertising in this line of PlayStation magazines was insane. Oh, here we go, Grand Theft Auto 3.
There we go.
So here's something to point out, and I can tell you right now. So if you don't know, GTA 3 had a very interesting history, because obviously throughout the development of GTA 3, 9/11 happened.
Whoa.
So a lot of things had to be changed. So as you can see, you've got the very realistic police car here, the New York police car.
Mm-hmm.
That was changed to black and white because it was too realistic to New York, obviously with what happened with 9/11. The gang members down here, as I'm highlighting, are different. You can see the police van there as well. That's blue too. That was changed to black and white. Same with that one. And being part of a GTA modding community, I see this shit all the time. Like, all the fucking time. And it's very cool to see in like a PlayStation magazine. I'm pretty sure there's going to be... No, there isn't more to it. So there's just 1 or 2 pages, I guess you could say, of GTA 3. But this is kind of like history, kind of like pictured, and I love it. Like, it's so cool. And we could do a whole entire like episode on like the differences and what happened with GTA and stuff like that.
Oh, I think we might have to hit that.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, we'll put it down on Notion later on.
Yeah.
Snooker 2002. So even with a game like Snooker, you got something that like it's just cool. Like honestly, like everything about this is amazing, and I love it. It's so good. Splashdown. Similar to what was the game
Ridge
on
Racer?
the
No, not Ridge.
What's the game on Nintendo 64?
Wave is not Wave Ocean.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we'll probably put it up on the
I can't
screen.
remember what it's called right now. For some reason I went Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer.
I should know that. Ah, well, it's okay. Maybe Wave Rider or something like that.
I think it was Wave Rider. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So we go.
Burnout, and
Burnout.
Again, we've got the polys and the asset going on. Yeah.
So there we go. Good old Burnout. I've actually completed this game on stream, and the second and third game. Very cool games, honestly. I would like go back to them at some point because they are very cool. Showing the polys, obviously, because in that game you could smash into cars and stuff like that, and they'd all break apart and whatever, which is really cool.
I've got to say, before you go ahead, if you just go back, again, we're seeing this theme, whether it was with the Snooker Championships one or whether it was like the car at the start, and also this where it says 5.6 seconds too late. There's something which was really insisted on in magazine adverts for video games, is there is a lot of photography. I think there's a lot of this like really pulling people into like this, not just being like an image of a video game, play the video game.
Well,
it's like really trying to evoke real life.
This is why I really like the old style of PlayStation magazines, was because they absolutely did it spot on by not only giving you like sort of a refreshing like kind of template on, I guess, like real life photos that are edited really nicely, but also you have the video game assets and the video game screenshots as well, and this kind of stuff is just cool. Like, I love this sort of stuff, like combining the real life stuff with the in-game stuff is just cool, and I love it. And honestly, like, I love that kind of shit. Dropship, never played it. Looks like a stereotypical like sci-fi spacer shooter, which was quite common on the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1.
Yeah, it seems to be a flight sim there, as it was kind of
Smuggler's Run 2, Hostile Territory. I've heard about this game. It's okay, I think. I don't know who it was made by. Who was it made by? Angel Studios. Oh, publisher of Rockstar Games. Okay, so a pretty beefy, publisher at that stage in time. Oh, here we go. Oh
Unbelievable.
my god.
Are we gonna have to censor this episode? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But what the fuck is Freak Out? That's my question.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. It says "freak out, you will." It sounds like Yoda. Freak out, you
Freak
will.
out, you will. The Kelowna 2, though. Kelowna.
Yes.
Very good series. I've not played it myself, but I've heard some great things about that game. See, here we go again.
Oh wow, a double spread one here.
Mm-hmm. This stuff is just cool. I think a lot of people back in the day used to actually cut these out and actually use them as posters.
Oh, that's a very good point, because when I would get the official Nintendo magazine and like the Pokemon magazines and things like that, I would be all about taking like my favorite cutouts, and sometimes it would be the whole page, sometimes it would just be certain characters, and I wouldn't say I scrapbooked, but I used to blue tack them all over my wall.
What I used to do was... Oh, my camera's now tracking me. Sorry, guys.
Hey!
What I used to do back in the day is that when I used to have like PlayStation 2 cases, they used to come with like the advertisements for like certain peripherals and whatever. And I used to have a whole entire collage of these like manuals, or like these slips I used to put in the manuals on my wall. It was so cool. Two PlayStation 2 games for £60.
Oh, mate, remember when one game was £60?
Remember when one game was 30 quid? I remember that. I remember fucking picking up Ribbit King for PlayStation 2 at GameStop for 30 quid. Crazy.
Oh, Ribbit King, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
What we got? We have probably WRC on the top right. Top left, MotoGP 2, not a bad bike game. Football's coming home. I'm assuming that's Pro Evolution Soccer.
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Yeah, the rival to FIFA.
Well, I remember on Pro Evolution Soccer, being able to like customize your characters, things like skin color and stuff like that. And I remember making like SpongeBob SquarePants and like running them out. It's like, it's just very stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's the creativity of games like that nowadays. Like back then, like that was what was really cool.
And it was thinking about that, making those crazy customization options on like a game as mundane as Pro Evo, from that regard and that kind of unique approach. That stuff would go on to kind of come through in games like Elden Ring and on, where you make like the crazy characters, and that's like such an iconic. Like so many streamers lean on the crazy part at the start,
So just going on quickly, Hussein in the Brain, that's Conflict Desert Storm, that's based on the Kuwait-Iraq War. Great game, by the way. Done a video on one of the betas of that, actually, on my beta channel. Got some Lara Croft there. Something to do with Smash Court Tennis and Ace Combat for some reason. They used to do some weird shit like this back in the day, like combining. I don't know. It's very weird.
I mean, it's collage, and it's like collage has been around in so many ways for so long, and that's just like a very tongue-in-cheek version,
What we got here? The Joy of Lex. So we got a Superman game. The Real Spider-Man. Spider-Man, probably on the PlayStation 2. Great game. Don't know about this Speedball
I never heard
Arena.
It sounds cool. I wonder if it worked out,
I have a feeling it probably didn't. I'd like to... We'll probably put something up on the screen or something and see if it actually was a game that was made in the end. Because I can imagine there's probably a few games that we'll be looking through when we go through these magazines of like games that didn't just come out in the end, because it was quite common for that to happen.
I can certainly believe that.
Here we go again with something else with football as well. What game is that? It doesn't really say. This is Football 2002. Oh my god, This is Football. Jesus Christ, what a short-lived series that was. God Christ, it's kind of crazy nowadays. You've only got... Wow, it's now called FC, isn't it? FC Football. FC 2025.
Wait, hang on. This is Football. Is that the same as like... That's not the same as FIFA, is it?
No. FIFA was already established series at this stage.
Of course, because I was going to say FC, but FC is what FIFA is now.
Yeah.
They,
So yeah, because
so this is football must have just been something that
they
came
dropped
and
the
died.
FIFA, name, just call it Football Championship, but it's still FIFA.
Yeah, that's right.
But This Is
Yeah.
Football was made by, fuck, I don't know who it was made by, but I remember This Is Football didn't hit the market like what Pro Evolution Soccer or FIFA did though.
No, too right.
World Rally Championship, yes, it's WRC 2001, great rally game. Yeah, again, great advertising on the screenshots, shows everything that you'd probably want, really. The truth, I have.
Truth hurts. OPS 2 investigates why PAL conversions of NTSC games are bordering on the unacceptable. Well, this is very interesting because now we're
Ooh.
getting into like the kind of nitty gritty that we would like to get to on our podcast. Is where you
Absolutely.
get into some real technical knowledge and
I
things
think
like that.
what we need to do is we'll put it down on our collage of episodes we want to do. I think we should go through a few PlayStation magazines and then we should like highlight some of the things that was said by viewers that used to read the PlayStation magazine or like the editor notes and whatever, and actually look through that sort of stuff. It'll be really fucking like, and I think we'll keep this as something to look back on when we get to that episode, because I'd love to kind of delve into that, because why PAL conversion of NTST games are bordering on the acceptable. That could be from people doing it themselves or companies or whatever. I'm not quite sure, but that would be very cool to see.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where I'm sure we could find a way of pulling that into a whole episode. And it even made me realize, like looking at the top right by the guys who are fighting, where it says on their knees but still fighting, the PlayStation 2 fighters do the PAL borders limbo dance. So there must have been something to do with the actual operation of the game that was
Probably,
really
yeah.
suffering badly and like affecting like competitive play and things like that. Very interesting.
Very cool. Good old Apescape. Oh, yeah.
Look at the artwork for the title. It's so cool. You know, very cool.
One of the best things. Sadly, obviously, I can't read anything in Japanese. Sadly, I'd love to, but like the Japanese PlayStation magazines are really cool as well. Like they are spot on. Like really cool. So yeah, there we go. So we're on a PlayStation 2 magazine, but at this point in time, the PlayStation 1 was still very much heavy on people's minds. So, you know, if you've got a PlayStation 1 magazine, you can read that, get playable demos every month. So they were still releasing PlayStation demos and PlayStation magazines whilst PlayStation 2 was out. So which is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how long that kind of lasted. When we played a demo back when we were on the version 1 of Summoned Realms, were we playing a PlayStation 1 demo?
We were playing a PlayStation 2 magazine demo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which this magazine would have came with a PlayStation 2 magazine demo as well.
Yes.
Bex. Good old
that's an odd advert, isn't it? Very odd advert.
Very, very interesting. Overcast Dragons. I
never heard of it. And the front cover is very strange to have like a drawn.
It's a concept, yeah.
It's a concept. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a concept drawing by the looks of it. I'm interested to know quickly. Obviously, we won't have this in the. Oh my god, it was never released. Interesting. Okay. Or was it just made by someone? Oh, it was literally a fan-made game. Okay, that's cool. A fan-made concept of a game that someone wanted to have. That's cool.
I had a feeling when I saw the illustration and stuff, then I started to think, maybe this can't be quite right.
Here again.
The beautiful game.
The beautiful game. And then what else we got? Spy Hunter, another good game.
Oh, look at that peripheral thing. That is very strange. That must have been like an actual no, that can't have been. Is that a parody? Is that real?
What?
Another look, it says, well, hey, it's another one of those peripherals that makes you look stupid.
Peripherals that make you look stupid. A DualShock 2, is it? I think that's legit, actually.
Yeah, I do think so.
It must be. Yeah, there's a website you can go to as well. It'd be cool to go back on the web archive and actually see if that.
Does that literally say thrustmaster.co.uk?
It does, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, Oh,
I
they're
don't know
still
if we should
about.
open that one on stream.
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
no.
they're still about.
Oh, it
They're
is
still
real. It
about.
is
Yeah, they are
real.
real. My God,
I
crazy.
was worried that that might have got bought out by someone else, but that's awesome.
Rio
That's very
Ferdinand,
cool.
part of
Yeah,
the
there he
football
is.
team at the time, bless him. Tetsuya,
Now we're in the interviews, aren't we?
Sega
Yeah.
Rally creator, yeah. It'd be cool to look through these. Yeah, again, more to do with WWF SmackDown. Just bring it.
Oh,
Wipeout Fusion,
Wipeout, of course.
yeah, good
Fantastically
series.
stylish games,
Mm-hmm.
like great soundtrack, great
Yeah, again,
graphics.
we've got the poly stuff again.
I mean, look at even like going back into just a little bit about the design of the magazine itself,
Yeah.
and you see how down the center of the page, but you see these like beveled edges and then like curves and cuts that follow the kind of the design style of the actual ships
Yeah,
themselves, and you can see where the photo just goes into the white of the writing. It's like
absolutely.
really sweet layout that really like
It's
pays
very
attention to
cool.
the actual
Very,
game.
very cool, and it's very well done.
Hmm.
What else? We've got more about Wipeout Fusion.
Yeah, brilliant.
Stuntman.
Whoa.
Stuntman's an interesting game. So Stuntman was actually a... They made it into a real game in the end, but Stuntman originally started as a test game for an engine they were building. What was it? It was Atari that made this game. And funny enough, Stuntman would then become, after the release Stuntman would then become Driver 3.
Oh, okay. There
Yeah,
you go.
and then Driver 3 had a major bunch of controversy as well. They call it Drivergate because of how bad it was. Very, very cool though. But
I
this
just
game,
wanted to point out,
yeah, go on.
before you went ahead, is that it says the developer is based in Newcastle. So there might be some people who worked on that still hanging around in the industry in like a British
Probably.
developer
Yeah,
or
I
something.
think it would be
You
really
might be able
cool to
to
actually
pick it up.
get on the hook on that, actually. But yeah,
Yeah.
so this is interesting because what is this? That's interesting because they've got screenshots of Stuntman, and then down here, yeah, so they're already talking about Driver here. So they already so it was already in the works that Driver 3 was being made after Stuntman, which is pretty cool because that's one of the main characters there. What else would we have?
Yeah.
More Stuntman, Seriously Addictive, Alex Ferguson's Player Manager 2001.
Wow, I've never even heard of that.
Never even heard of
of
that. Resident Evil Code, Veronica X, that's pretty good. F1 2001, pretty good game. Extreme G3, never played it. HMV, though, still around today somehow. I have no idea.
Hanging by a thread.
Better than
Better
SSX.
than SSX.
Yeah, right. I see
Woo.
what you're trying to do there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old SSX. Very, very cool line of games. Actually, quite a common game to find on a demo disc that has differences in terms of that build and then a final build of whatever SS game.
see,
Yeah, very true. Lifting the Veil, Final Fantasy X. Great line of games as always.
Great framing
Oh
on that,
yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely.
In terms of, telling the
Like
story,
just looking at
people are-
this is
Yeah.
amazing. Love it, and obviously very well done in terms of the models and the atmosphere and stuff. More Final Fantasy X with the chocobos.
Mm.
Very, very cool. Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Well, never. Yeah. So what? So
Make
what
a
do you
film, of
do?
course.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hang on. I never watched any Final Fantasy films, but I didn't even know this was a thing.
It was made in 2001,
Ah.
and it didn't do well at box office.
I mean, a Final Fantasy film doesn't seem like it would
Nah.
pull too many people. Not that I've got a problem with Final Fantasy, but more just like people who go to the cinema. I didn't think it would have
Yeah.
that enough fans to like, you know.
I think it's one of those things where, like, back then, making a video game movie was probably very, very hard to do because, wow,
Yeah.
a lot of the time, like, the differences between the movie and the actual game itself would be so far apart, they wouldn't actually make sense in terms of, like, you know, like, stuff in the game that isn't in the movie, and then the movie coming up with random shit that isn't in the game. So it's like, yeah, very, very interesting.
I was thinking that since we've hit like the reviews portion here, maybe we could sort of like call it there, because I think you've got to head off quite soon.
I do, and I was about to say that we would probably end it here. But regardless, though, I think, because this is kind of like the prototype thing of like, this is the prototype thing of doing like the magazine and whatever. I think the best thing to do would be to, just kind of simmer it down, I guess, or whatever, and kind of like understand what parts of the magazine we'll look at. It's just a general overview. It'll be something that we'll be thinking about later on in the future. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, we as we've said, like in the last episode, it's like, although we had our like first version of Summoned Realms, and we'll be sort of like putting that behind like a vault eventually, and like really doing a new thing with this, is we're always working on how we go ahead with these things. And I think like the fact that even going over that magazine and just hitting some of those games which you recognize far more of them than me, and then some of the stories behind them and all of that, I think we'll definitely like, maybe we could do a part 2 on that magazine when we get a bit of time.
I was also thinking maybe we could just take a bunch of screenshots from a magazine and then talk about it. So it, instead of just like recording the whole entire thing, we could do something like that. But anyway, guys, thank you yet again for tuning in to episode of Summoned Rounds. Adrian, it was lovely talking to you again.
Yeah, of course, and here's to many more times. But it's great to go down our old childhood memories, and it's amazing to hear about how you'd come to video games. Because even though we did kind of how we came to video games more in terms of like work and things like that, but then we really got to talk about kind of like really the seed of what got us into this, and it's a great idea for an episode. And talking of episodes and ideas and blah blah, is it's looking very likely that we're gonna have a guest coming in, which is really like a sudden thing. Whoa!
Oh my god!
So yeah, we're looking to have with any luck, it's looking to be Dan Moore of Iron Dragon Design, and we'll be learning a thing or two about how he studied video games and graduated with a video game degree, but also how he runs a graphic design and branding company, which is based around all of his experience with things like role play games and things like that. So hopefully we'll get him on. We've got a date, we've got it booked down, we've got it in our calendars, and hopefully that'll be our like first ever guest of the new Summoned Realms, and it's Absolutely. A really good one to get in first, I think.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much yet again, and we will see you on the next episode. See you guys.
See you guys.
Goodbye. Woo!